Alright guys, in this video I'm going to be talking about some specific ways that you can improve at the game. First we're going to talk about just in general how you can improve overall, and then we'll talk more specifics to the game. Meanwhile, since I've made you guys watch me just do a bunch of weird specific things this entire time, I've just got a bunch of different gameplay footage that I threw together of me running around aimlessly, just kind of doing stuff, getting into some fights, doing some PvE, just to kind of give you something different to look at while I yap. So, one of the biggest things to think about when you are trying to improve at any game, especially with PvP, is that you're not going to be good from the start. You might be better than some people due to experience in past games, yada yada, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be good at this game. That doesn't necessarily mean you understand all the mechanics, all that good stuff. The most important thing you should think about when you are trying to improve in general is keeping a growth mindset. A growth mindset is really just all about making sure that every interaction gives you something to learn from, rather than just, oh no, I lost, I died, it's the fault of the game, the other person was just, too good, or they're playing an OP class, they're playing the flavor of the month one trick, they're mobs in the fight, there were a bunch of bugs, I ran into some weird geometry. Yeah, everyone knows that happens. Everyone knows that those things occur. But the reason that you just got fully deleted without landing a single hit on your target is because you don't know anything. Currently, you are a trash can at this game, and you're gonna be a trash can for a while. That's just the truth. You're gonna have to get over it. Without approaching situations with a growth mindset and actively looking for ways to improve through those situations, you're just pretty much never going to improve. So let's try not to be that way, and we can all improve at the game. Alright, so for example of how to have a growth mindset. You'll remember this fight from earlier. I showed you this video in the audio and visuals. I didn't talk about it too much during that video. It was mostly just so that you could hear all the different interactions. But now I'm going to talk about the actual fight more and give you kind of like a example of having a growth mindset and recognizing where you can improve and what happened. So in this fight, I lost for reasons that were completely my own fault. That rogue was not good. We can say that that was an accurate statement. However, I played like really badly. I didn't use my spirit shell. I didn't use a single class tool. I'm pretty sure I jumped in front of him like 2 or 3 times and got myself knocked down because I have a horrible habit of jumping. It's just MMO brain, I guess. I didn't use my abilities properly to follow up and abuse my stuns on him, that is a large portion of my damage. All of those things, those are not the rogue's fault. The rogue did not cause me to not do those things. That was my own that was just me. I mean, sure, I was in junk gear, and even playing as badly as I was winning the fight until I misplayed like 12 times, and then I was no longer winning the fight. Now, the difference between this situation and me blaming the rogue for abusing stuff or playing a dagger rogue or whatever is that a growth mindset is I just recognized all of the mistakes that I did, and then you take note for the future, and then you improve. That's growth mindset. If you can't self-criticize, you're not gonna improve. Alright, so some specifics for improving with Legacy. So, first of all, go into Goldbrook. After your tutorial, you get started in the game, you're a brand new player, mess around with all the classes that interest you. Go into Goldbrook, hit some target dummies, run around, get a feel for the game. Right now, you've just started, you're just trying to get your bearings. During this time, fill out your keybinds. If you're completely new, these are more than likely going to change again later. Once you get access to more tools and some more items, but for right now, just kind of give them a gander. Essentially, you just need to adjust to the tone of this game. It took me probably, I don't know, around 10 hours of actively playing and running around before I began to really enjoy the game, because the feel of the mechanics were just not something I was used to. It was weird feeling the characters jump and move around, and the combat was a lot slower than I expected it to be. But I also come from mainly a WoW PvP background, and retail right now is like a miles a second, and that I was just surprised at how slow this combat was comparatively. Not necessarily because I expected this to be fast, it was slow. It felt clunky to me. It doesn't anymore, but that's because I'm used to it now. Alright, and I'm not saying that you should run around Goldbrook for hours at first, but for the first bit of time, you know, it gives you the freedom to run around and just feel things, try out the different classes, and just not be punished for it. And then the next thing, while you're still in Goldbrook, check all your settings while you're checking your keybinds even. Adjust your audio, adjust your visuals. My big thing with audio, music is cool, music is good, music makes a lot of things. However, in games like this, where you need to hear everything, it's much more important to hear that than it is to hear the music. So I think my music is on like 1%, so that occasionally I'll hear it and I'll be like, I'll you know, sing along with the little melody. But otherwise, it's basically non-existent. And then once you get a general feel for all that stuff, you've kind of messed around with your settings. Again, those will probably change even after you start playing. You get 100 hours into it or more, you'll change them again. It just happens. Even if before that you just want to jump into the game guns blazing, go to Greenwood Day and expect to die. Expect to die a lot. One of the big important things that you need to remember when you do get into a fight and you do lose, don't be toxic. Don't start yelling at the people through voice chat, telling them that they're stupid, that they're sucky at the game, that they're abusing things, that, oh, they're running around in better gear than you, so enjoy my grays, enjoy my whites, all of these things. Because when you start being toxic and the community starts responding that way, the community then becomes toxic. If you don't want to build a community of toxic players, don't become the toxic player. It's always fun to banter with people if everyone's being cool. There's actually a lot more positive feedback and energy in the community than people like to give it credit for. That's because a lot of the people who complain that there isn't are usually being aggressive through voice chat whenever they lose or win a fight. Alright, and then again with the PvP and even with PvE, you have to understand that you're gonna lose, you're gonna die. Farming gear and farming mats is an aspect of these kinds of games. Once you get more hours in, you're just passively going to have the materials to continue making more gear that you want if you do die. You just have to get to that point. So don't give up on the game if you haven't hit the higher levels yet, or gotten traits that you want, or it feels like you're never getting gear. You have to keep playing. You have to keep leveling up your characters to get to the point where you're actually able to compete. The leveling process of your class is there for you to learn the game, get a feel for it, kind of get the knowledge of where things are, and then once you're at level 20 with the class that you've decided to go with, or the classes that you've decided to go with, is when you can really start focusing and honing in there, like, okay, now I'm going to improve in these ways. But until then, it's really just a big, steep learning curve. Alright, one big thing to talk about when it comes to PvP, the way that PvP works in every game. If you think back on any PvP game in any PvP game that you've ever played, World of Warcraft Arenas, Apex Legends, Overwatch, Fortnite, any other extraction game that you've played, PvP interactions usually amount to a very strong ebb and flow kind of gameplay, where one person's putting pressure on the other person is defending, trying to look for a way to turn pressure. It just depends on what game it is to how that actually kind of goes back and forth. So as you learn how to counter a specific play style or a specific class, it will get easier because as they start to do their stuff, you'll be like, okay, in this situation, I need to do this. And then they will probably, at higher level, they'll be like, okay, well, they're doing this in response to me, so I need to do this in response to that. That's how PvP works. As things evolve and as people learn the metas, as people learn how just everything works, players will learn how to counter everything and then will work around that. Some of the best ways to improve with the game otherwise, go watch videos, go watch streamers. I know that there are a lot of people out there who don't enjoy the aspect of streamers being involved in video games, but they're actually a really great resource for at least seeing and learning how higher level players form. And just there's not a lot of content out there for this game just yet. However, there's a decent amount out there that can help you at least get some knowledge for how the game can work. While I was still learning the game, I was watching one of the warrior streamers, and just passively having him on in the background while I was running around playing and just trying things out, I'd hear him say random things about the warrior class, and he'd be like, yeah, this is how this just works, because he was answering the questions somebody else had, questions that I never really thought about asking, or yada yada. And so I heard it, implemented it, and it improved gameplay. Sometimes it's just that simple. It's not even necessarily that you have to see it, you just have to hear someone say, oh yeah, do this. Alright, and just to give some quick commentation on this fight right here. This is another example of just kind of knowing how the game works, mechanics, and just knowing when you should or shouldn't engage. In most situations, this rogue should be killing me. However, he engaged himself into a stasis circle, which silences, and then also into a very close quarter combat, which usually he should win. However, that means that he had nowhere else to go. We were both on a cliff, we had nowhere to go, but that meant that I could use all of my stuff that could damage him in an AoE format, and he couldn't get out of it. I just so happened to also luckily get off combustion on him so that when he ran away, he still died. And here my execute got bugged, so instead of being able to actually kill him, I had to hit him a few times to try and kill him that way, and then I decided that that wasn't going to take too long because I did hear another fight going on around me, and luckily my execute started working again. And even more enjoyable about this entire situation is this guy was wearing some blues, so I got a few free blue pieces out of this to disenchant for blue armor and weapon crystals, so that was pretty cool. So that leads into the next best part about how you improve at anything, is you just have to do it. The only real way to get better at this game is to play it. If you've given up the game before you've even reached 50 hours in it, and you haven't gotten a single class to level 20, or you're trying to run a green kit into the crypt map, which we've already talked about, you're actively preventing yourself from improving and enjoying the game at a higher level. I completely understand if games like that are not your style. Some people like to be able to just go in, play the game, and relax. This game is not like that. Any game with a PvP aspect to it is going to require practice. You're not going to be able to just play at the highest level immediately. Because the fact of the matter is, you will be in Greenwood Day, someone will come along in blues or purples, and they will just kill you with your grays on. 9 times out of 10, the people that you fight in Greenwood Day are new players as well, just slightly less new than you, and they're not good enough at the game to fight people on the higher level maps. So they are on Greenwood Day in higher level gear, fighting people without gear so that they can get so that they can get more practice in PvP without dying, because that's how they have to handle the game. Because that's how they have to compensate for a lack of skill. It doesn't mean that they can't improve at the game, that they aren't going to eventually get past that point, but currently that's just how that goes. Alright, so the thing I want to highlight in this clip, this fight is another one of the situations where I just play like an idiot. I don't use my abilities properly, I chase for the kill when I shouldn't. Here in a second after the next stun or something, he falls back to try and get a heal off. Instead of me just also healing myself like I should right here, I keep on chasing instead of being smart, and then he ends up being able to turn around and get a dagger on me and then kill me.
Bad decision. Very bad decision on your part.
The thing I want to point out though is that when you win or lose a fight, don't do what that guy just did. Don't try to make some silly mocking thing, because the truth of the matter is, he just got pushed back by a priest in junk gear and was more than likely very close to death while wearing what it looked like to be at least greens. I don't know enough about how rogue gear looks to say otherwise. Alright guys, that's pretty much all I have to talk about. I know it seems like I probably was trying to yap a lot and talk about a bunch of different things, when in reality I really only talked about one thing. Is that the way that you can aim to improve is by being more aware of yourself than everything else in the game. To improve, you have to have a lot of self-reflection, and you have to realize that you're the one making a lot of the mistakes and you're misplaying, but that's okay because you can fix it and improve.
Round 2, fight!
There was just another warrior hanging out, just commentating the fights. It was really funny. Alright, anyway, back to the topic at hand. And I hope that you take away from that everyone's gone through it. The people who have been playing for hours, hundreds of hours more than you, also started out not entirely knowing how to play the game. It's just how it goes. You'll get better, as everyone does. I would encourage you to not give up the game if you first started or you're just starting out and you're not too far into playing it. I would encourage you to not give up the game just because you've been killed by some players who are in better gear than you and a few toxic people here and there, because it will happen. It's going to happen more than you probably want it to, but that's just part of the game. And overall, as this game grows and more people start to play it, it will only improve and keep improving. I think there's a lot of potential in this game. I'm really excited to see where it goes. I'm really excited for the next class that they're talking about with the Paladin. I think that's going to be super cool. I'm super excited to try that when it finally gets around. But anyway, I hope all of these videos have been helpful to at least one of you who has viewed them. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, go ahead and give these videos a like, and then also follow me over on Twitch. You can watch as I improve the game, as I try to grow, so that I can go from Timmy to playing with all of the big guys. Alright guys, just want to thank all of you again for watching the videos, sticking with me through this whole thing. Can't wait to see some of you around in the game and stream. Have a great one. I'll see you in there.